The day began like any other for Jim Jones. The seasoned hip-hop performer, who is renowned for his songs and feisty personality, was scheduled to take off from New York's crowded JFK airport. Jim, dressed in his signature streetwear chains and shades, had the confidence of someone who's seen it all. But no one could have predicted that this ordinary day of travel would turn into a national media sensation, not even Jim himself. It started at the security checkpoint. Witnesses said that Jim appeared upset even before the action began. Perhaps the lengthy lines, the fans' constant demands for pictures, or the busy morning schedule were to blame. Anyway, he was clearly annoyed as he made his way through TSA. According to witnesses, the incident heated up after Jim allegedly moved ahead of a man who was fumbling with his belongings at the conveyor belt. They exchanged words. At first, the eye rolls, rising voices, and whispering of complaints seemed to be the usual travel stress. However, violence swiftly broke out from the verbal dispute. The others gasped as the two men surged at each other. Shouting filled the terminal. Bags dropped off the belt. Security personnel rushed to separate the two, but phones were already recording. "You know, that's Jim Jones," one bystander shouted as they pulled out their phones to film the fight. The footage went viral on social media in a matter of minutes. In the video, Jim could be seen punching back as the police pulled him away, clearly trying to protect himself. Airport police descended onto the situation. Jim was chained, his arms behind his back, and officers hurried him to a holding room. The person who got into the incident was also escorted away, despite the fact that he was far less recognizable than the celebrity who was now being followed by dozens of cameras. One cop was heard saying, "Calm down, sir," in the video. "We just need to talk about what happened." But Jim shouted back, obviously angry, "I didn't initiate this. He assaulted me first, you all saw it." The terminal was bustling with activity, travelers whispering to one another and calling friends and family about what they had just witnessed. The footage had already been acquired by TMZ and other media, and the nasty headlines read, "Airport Brawl. Jim Jones detained after fight at JFK." Some criticized Jim, claiming that a public figure should know better, while others felt sorry for him, presuming he had been provoked. Jim, who had removed his sunglasses and was sitting with his wrists on the table with his chains clinking, was placed by officers in the airport holding room. Two detectives entered, ready to begin questioning him. "Mister, this terminal has security cameras so we can see what happened." "Jones, we know you're upset, but we need your side of the story," one investigator stated. "Take care of yourself and work together." Jim took a deep breath. He was used to controversy, but this time it felt more real. The bright lights outside the holding room door reminded him that the world was already watching. Meanwhile, news outlets covered the topic nonstop. The question of whether Jim had truly gone too far or if his celebrity status had unfairly singled him out was debated by commentators. On Twitter, hashtags like the Free Jim Jones and Jim Jones Airport Fight began to gain popularity. Back in the holding area, Jim's phone was constantly buzzing from the evidence bag. His team, friends, and family were trying to contact him. Love and Hip Hop's cast members were already aware of it. Some silently expressed their worries, while others saw it as simply another sharp bend in Jim's unpredictable trajectory. The questioning heated up. An officer asked, "Did you have any alcohol this morning?" Jim shot back, "No. I just wanted to go on my flight." The man kept bumping into me and started talking incoherently, so I told him to stop. "He's swinging before you realize it. I won't let anybody touch me. You would do the same." They had witness testimony in addition to his version of events, and the widely circulated recordings painted a chaotic picture that was not beneficial to either side, so the police officers exchanged glances. As the first hour of questioning came to a conclusion, Jim slumped back in his chair in irritation and said, "This is ridiculous. It's not against the law for me to defend myself. You can't just put me in jail for this." But the authorities reminded him that this is about more than just him. Fighting is not treated lightly here. It's an airport on federal property. Jim felt as though his work, independence, and reputation were all on the line. And that awareness came as a shock because of the circumstances that had converted what could have been dismissed as a minor scuffle elsewhere into a federal case. By evening, the story was spreading like wildfire. Admirers waiting outside the airport yelled his name, and bloggers scrutinized every detail of the footage. The argument was over. The confrontation in the airport was ended, and Jim knew deep down that this was only the beginning. But the real battle, against the press, the system, and the damage to his career, was just beginning. Jim Jones was taken aback by the coldness of the JFK holding room, and he kept reenacting the violent confrontation in his mind, keeping his back straight and his arms clasped. There was a half-finished police report on the table in front of him. Officers came and went in the room whispering information to each other, and every time the door creaked open, Jim's anxiousness grew. He wasn't afraid of confrontations since he had been through too many, but this time it looked different. His reputation was already at risk beyond those gates. Social media has turned the airport into a virtual tribunal. Fans were split on the popular hashtags #Jim Jones Brawl and #JART Airport Chaos, which showed him swinging in one film and screaming in another, portraying him as the aggressor without any context. We spoke with a number of witnesses, and the investigator returned with a folder that he handed over the table. Some criticized him for losing control in public, while others defended him, saying it was self-defense. Some say you got out of hand, while others say you were provoked. Surveillance footage proves there was a physical altercation. "Mr. This is a serious matter." Jim leaned forward. "It wasn't me who started it. You have cameras everywhere, and you know that guy was in my face first." His voice was a mixture of frustration and determination. The officer's calm reply, "Intent doesn't matter here, however," diffused the situation. "The place matters. You're not in a club or on the street. This airport is owned by the government." That is the key distinction. The implications of their words became clear. It wasn't just a headline. An altercation at the airport may result in federal prosecution. Beyond the airport, pandemonium simmered outside the holding area, with reporters and photographers encamped outside the terminal to await word, and supporters arguing loudly in the parking lot, some shouting, "Free Jim Jones!" while others criticized his behavior. In the realm of hip-hop and love, phones were always ringing. Executive producer Mona Scott was in her office when the first video showed up on her timeline. She froze, playing the video over and over. "Mona, have you seen this?" Her helper rushed in and asked. "Yes," answered Mona firmly. "And there will soon be anarchy. Call VH1. We need to determine how to control the damage." She knew that the drama was the driving force behind the play, but this was real life, and there were consequences. Not only a rumor, a cast member in federal custody was a liability. Rashida was among the first cast members to text Jim, despite the fact that his phone was locked in the evidence bag. Yandy Smith gave Mona a call directly. "Tell me this isn't true," she pleaded. "Jim has been trying to focus, so this isn't required for him right now." Mona sighed. "It's true, Yandy. We'll just have to wait and find out, but the footage is all over the place." Back in jail, Jim lost his temper and yelled at the investigator, "You keep talking like I'm some sort of criminal. Do you seriously think I'm going to let a guy snub me in front of everyone? I was defending my own interests." "No, anyone who had been in my position would have done the same." The investigator wrote notes. "You are heard. However, purpose does not nullify impact. You have been detained but not yet arrested. The district attorney will decide on charges." Jim kept hearing the word "yet" in his mind. His family was waiting for him, cameras were set up to record every angle, and his career was still in progress. The idea of spending a night or longer in a jail cell sounded unthinkable. He summoned his lawyer. An hour later, a lawyer with a suitcase appeared in a smart suit. The lawyer assured him, "We'll take care of this," social media storm. "By now, the tale has taken over the internet, so keep quiet till I've looked over the proof." Blogs, podcasts, and gossip channels examined each audio. One analysis, Jim Jones cuffed at JFK. What really happened? Starglow channel uploaded it. In a few hours, it received thousands of views, and supporters flooded the comments area with comments such, "Jim was just defending himself. The other man assaulted him first. Whether you're famous or not, you don't fight in an airport. He has to face the consequences. This is real-life hip-hop and love." Drama ensues wherever they go. With every response, the issue seemed to become worse. It was no longer just a struggle. It was now about image, influence, and the court of public opinion. Family reaction: Chrissy Lampkin was at home while browsing through her phone's updates. Her pulse raced as she saw her partner's face splattered throughout news feeds. "This man," she continued pacing. "This man," she continued pacing. Despite her desire to keep him safe, she understood how deadly situations like this could spiral out of hand. To check on her, her pals gave her a call. "How are you?" They asked, "Have you talked to Jim?" "No, but I'm going to find out what's really going on," Chrissy said. "After everything we've done, he doesn't deserve to be represented as a criminal." Her voice faltered with anger and worry. She knew the system could amplify even the smallest incident. Mona had to make a decision when she got back to work, and the network needed to know whether this may jeopardize filming. One executive said, "We might turn it into a plot," but Mona shook her head, saying, "This goes beyond television drama. This is legal. Rather of exploiting federal cases, we wait. If Jim quits anytime soon, we could talk about it on the show. But just now, we need to protect the brand." However, Mona could not ignore the fact that viewing was driven by controversy. And nothing captured the attention of viewers more than a real-life scandal. The night ends. As night passed, Jim remained in custody, awaiting the decision of the DA. He may still face prosecution, even though his lawyer told him that bail was likely. Doubt gnawed at him. He sat alone in the quiet room, his head down. For once, the confident swagger was gone. All he could think of was his job, his family, and the headlines that were already dominating the facts. The flashing lights of the reporters' cameras outside lit up the night sky. Jim entered the house and prepared for the storm. Because although the battle was over, the fallout was only beginning. It was almost midnight when Jim Jones finally heard the "you're being released on bail" statement that he had been waiting for. His lawyer leaned forward and said aggressively, "You'll be out tonight, Jim, but the DA's office is moving forward. The cameras are already outside, but nothing has been confirmed yet. You might be charged for disturbing the peace and disruptive behavior. Keep your cool." Jim nodded. He had been in the limelight before, but this time it was about his freedom, not music or the drama of love and hip-hop, and the stakes were higher. As he left the station by the side exit, shielded by his attorney, the noise of flashing lights and the questions of reporters exploded around him like thunder. "Jim, did you start the fight? Did someone else travel with you? Are you worried about getting arrested?" Jim stayed silent, staring straight ahead. It was the lawyer who had brainwashed him into not saying anything or answering. On the inside, however, his pride screamed. He wanted to protect himself and prove to the world that he wasn't the one who had attacked, even though he knew it was safer to remain silent. Chrissy confronts Jim. When he arrived home, Chrissy Lampkin was there to greet him. She stood in the living room with her arms folded and her phone kept buzzing with warnings. She demanded, "Are you even conscious of what you did?" "I didn't do anything wrong, Chrissy." "That guy assaulted me first." Jim tossed his coat on the couch. Chrissy narrowed her eyes and said, "How would you defend yourself at an airport? Cameras in front of TSA, passengers?" "You know more than I do, Jim. This goes beyond a bar fight. The federal government owns this land." Jim groaned and scratched his temples. "I will not put up with rude treatment from anyone." Chrissy softens a bit. "Jim, I know who you are. You're aware of the situation. I am conscious of the system's unfairness, though. They will never see a guy defend himself. They will witness a well-known somebody creating trouble. And now your name is well known for all the wrong reasons." The tension in the room increased. Chrissy replied, "We've worked too hard for you to throw it away over one moment," in a voice that broke. The love and hip-hop community quickly heard about Yandy steps in. Yandy Smith, who had a long history with Jim and Chrissy, could not keep quiet. She called Jim the following morning. Yandy said in a worried, irritated voice, "What happened, Jim?" "You already know that the media is distorting it," Jim said. "I dealt with a man who came up to me." "Handled it?" Yandy shouted. "Are you conscious of your appearance? Your name is already being damaged by others, and the entire world is watching you while you're involved in a legal matter." After a little period of silence, Jim said, "They'll see the truth." But Yandy wasn't convinced. "It's not just about you, Jim. It's about Chrissy, your family, and everyone connected to you. Don't attempt to conceal it." The history, the war, the unresolved loyalty battles were all reproduced in the tension between them, and Yandy cared, even if she wasn't afraid to scrutinize him, since one mistake might ruin everything. Meanwhile, Mona Scott was sitting in a boardroom with VH1 executives making calculations while the television showed snippets of the fight at the airport over and again. One executive said anxiously, "This could ruin production." Mona said, "Or it might increase ratings. People are interested in what's going to happen next, but we can't be reckless. We'll let the real story play out before deciding how to include it." The audience is searching for authenticity because Jim's life is now in the news, and Mona is known for turning drama into excellent television. But she knew there was a fine line between reality TV and real consequences. "We need to talk," she texted to Jim as soon as she picked up her phone, "because it's about your future, not the cameras." Social media explodes on Instagram and Twitter, the controversy spread. Bloggers watched every second of the video. Fan theories spread like wildfire. While some said that Jim was the aggressor, others claimed that Jim was provoked by the other man. Memes flooded timelines, with some mocking the occurrence and others expressing solidarity with the hashtag #SargFreeJimJones. YouTube channels such as The True Story Behind Jim Jones' Airport Fight and Chrissy Lampkin discloses information about Jim Jones's arrest. Released hour-long analyses. Is Love and Hip Hop using Jim Jones' drama to raise ratings? Jim's life was not only real but also interesting, as seen by the hundreds of views each video garnered. A disputed gathering. 2 days later, Jim, Chrissy, and Mona met in private. Even before anybody spoke, the atmosphere in the room was strained. Mona said calmly, "Jim, you have to understand the situation. In addition to the headline being awful right now, the audience is more interested in headlines than in context." Jim leaned back and folded his arms. "I'm not going to let anyone paint me as a criminal because I know what happened." Chrissy cut me off. "And I know what the cameras recorded. That's the problem. The court of public opinion is currently louder than the courtroom." Mona nodded. "You need to have narrative control because of this. Maintain your cool, focus, and let your lawyer handle the rest. Don't give them any more ammunition." Jim only shook his head and remained silent. In his heart, he knew Mona was right. The news conference. In order to get control of the situation, Jim's lawyer organized a brief news conference. Cameras swarmed to the scene as Jim and Chrissy stood at the platform. With a steady voice, Jim replied, "I want to tell about what happened at JFK. After being provoked, I defended myself. I didn't look for confrontation. I would cooperate fully, and I abide by the law. But the truth will come out, and I won't let my reputation be damaged." The message was straightforward, concise, and well-organized. Reporters shouted questions at Jim as he left, but he remained silent. A suspenseful ending. The news conference was aired on television many times that night. Some praised his composure, while others questioned his sincerity. One thing became clear as the debate went on. Now, it was more than just a fight. It was about Jim Jones's history, reputation, and resilience. And with the DA's decision looming, the drama was far from over. The tension in New York City reached a breaking point when the district attorney's office finally announced that Jim Jones would face charges of third-degree assault and disorderly conduct. The news broke early in the morning. "Jim Jones faces charges after airport fight" was the headline on every entertainment website. From rapper to courtroom, Jim Jones's legal issues get worse. Chrissy Lampkin stands behind Jim during the scandal. Jim sat at his dining table and pondered the announcement. Chrissy placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze kind yet worried. "It's real now," she silently said. Jim nodded slowly. "They're trying to use me as an example." The courtroom battle. The initial court hearing was attended by sizable groups. Paparazzi lined the steps, fans held signs of support, and reporters struggled for positions. There was a tense atmosphere inside. Jim, dressed in a sharp suit, walked into the courtroom with his attorney. Just behind him, Chrissy sat with her fists clenched. The prosecutor painted Jim as an aggressor by asserting that a celebrity should set an example rather than be a public fist thrower. A large screen displayed videos of the altercation at the airport, capturing the chaos in slow motion. Jim's mouth clenched. He felt that the video did not adequately capture the verbal abuse and the shove that started it all. However, the court heard a lot from the images. When his lawyer's turn came, Jim got to his feet. "My customer didn't seek out conflict. He took the danger seriously. Jim Jones is neither above nor below the law, but he is neither above it either. We want you to see the situation for what it was, a fierce act of self-protection." Chrissy's breaking point. During recess, Chrissy pulled Jim aside. She said, "I have a question for you," with vigor. Jim turned to her after hearing the anger in her voice. "What? Is this who we are right now? Our courts? What? Is this who we are right now? Our courts?"